Okay, it's 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that this meeting is respectfully held on the traditional territory of the Sycas First Nation, on whose land we live, work, and play. We have an agenda circulated. Would somebody like to move adoption? Seconder? All in favor? Carried. 3, auditor's presentation of draft financial statements. I'll hand it over to you, Taylor.
Sounds good. I'll just share my screen here so we can all follow along. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, my name's Taylor Turkington from Bestwick Hildebrand Lund in Prince George. Been working on the audit for the District of Vanderhoof for the last few years now. Just want to say thanks before we start to Margaret and her staff for all her help. Really appreciate it. Made it go relatively smoothly. Yeah, we'll just get started here on page 2. We have the management's responsibility for the financial statements. All this says is that while we help to prepare and review the financial statements for the audit, they are the responsibility of mayor and council, and just to be aware of that you're responsible for the numbers that are in there. But we do help to prepare the financial statements. Next page, starting on page 3, we have the independent auditor's report. So this is essentially what we are engaged to do. This is where we provide our opinion on the financial statements. So in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the District of Vanderhoof as at December 31st, 2023. And so what that means is that is a clean audit report, minimal adjustments, and nothing to really bring to the attention of mayor and council. Next page, we have the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements. This just sort of gives a breakdown of some of the different processes we use in completing our audit. So we identify and assess any risks and material misstatement, make sure we understand any internal controls that are relevant to the audit, make sure the accounting policies in use are appropriate and reasonable, and make sure that the overall presentation of the financial statements are in line with the public sector accounting standards. And then starting on page 6, we have the statement of financial position, also known as the balance sheet. So total financial assets for the year were 26.2 million, down slightly from the 26.3 million in 2022. That's mostly due to this slight decrease in cash and cash equivalents, while there was an slight increase in portfolio investments. Cash and cash equivalents, we'll go over that a little bit more when we go to the cash flow statement. But however, the portfolio investments increased by about $200,000, and that's just due to the better rates that were available in 2023. Total liabilities for the year were $10.6 million, up from the $9.6 million in 2022. Some significant changes here have to do with the unearned grants and unearned revenues. And so that just means that there was additional funding received in 2023 that is to be used in 2024 or later. So it's not recognized as revenue yet. Also new this year is the asset retirement obligations note. So that's a new requirement that the standards have implemented this year, PSAS 3280. And so this is just to show that there are some obligations related to the retirement of buildings and other items that are owned by the district. We'll go over that when we get to note 19. But all municipalities will have something to do with a similar note like this in their financial statements this year. All that together results in net financial assets of $15.5 million. Total non-financial assets increased quite a bit to 67 million, up from the 63 million in 2022. And that's due to this increase in tangible capital assets due to a large amount of capital asset purchases that occurred in 2023. All that together results in a total accumulated surplus of $82.5 million, up from the 79.7 in 2022. Also new this year, there's the statement of remeasurement gains and losses. So what that does is just gives a description of the accumulated surplus and how much of it is an operating surplus and how much is a measurement gain or loss. So that would be like unrealized gains, like on investments due to increase in market value compared to cost. And we'll go over that a little bit in a couple pages here. Next, we have the statement of operations, also known as the income statement. So total revenues for the year were 13.6 million, down from the 17.6 in 2022. The majority of that decrease, you can see here is, where did it go? Oh, here we go. The $3 million decrease in community forest revenue, and that's just because there was no logging for 2023. So that's a big portion of the difference there. Also, grants decreased by about $600,000. That's just due to timing, and there just happened to be less grants that were received in 2023. However, taxation increased by about $300,000. That's just because there was a higher amount of tax revenue budgeted for during the year. Also to note, there was community works fund, so there was that's also known as the gas tax revenue, and that's just zero this year compared to last year's almost $1 million. And that's just because there was no community works funding used in 2023. Total expenses for the year increased slightly to $10.7 million, up from the almost 10.2 in 2022. That's mostly due to an increase in protective service, environmental service, and recreation expenses in 2023. We'll get a bit more into this in Schedule 2 and Schedule 1 in the statements. All that together results in an annual surplus or net income of $2.8 million, resulting in the surplus at the end of the year of $82.5 million. Next, we have the statement of change in net financial assets. This is exactly what it says. It just gives a breakdown of what makes up the net financial assets at the end of the year. So you can see, as mentioned before, there was a $7.1 million in capital assets purchased during the year against $3 million in amortization. That with other non-financial asset changes results in a total decrease in net financial assets of $1.1 million. Next, we have the statement of cash flows. This just gives a breakdown of where cash came from and where it was spent during the year. So you can see here it's broken up between operating, capital, investing, and financing transactions. So there's a total increase in cash due to operating transactions of $6.9 million, while there was a decrease in cash of $7.1 million due to the purchase of capital assets, as mentioned before. That coupled with the investing activities and financing transactions results in a decrease in cash of $315,000, resulting in cash at the end of the year of $21.6 million, as shown on the face of the statements. Then we have this new statement this year, the statement of remeasurement gains and losses. So as mentioned before, this just gives a breakdown of in the accumulated surplus at the end of the year, how much is made up of unrealized gains related to, in your case, portfolio investments. So you can see at the end of the year, there was $142,000 in unrealized gains at the end of the year. And so that sort of brings us to the end of the face of the statements, and we'll go into the notes of the financial statements. So this just gives a little bit more information about the numbers that we just went over, as well as gives information about different accounting policies and other items that help describe how the statements are shown, as well as how different types of transactions are recorded during the year. I'll go through and sort of touch on any that I think would be of interest to Mayor and Council. If you have any questions, just please stop me. So note 1, significant accounting policies. This is just a list of different accounting policies that are followed in during the year, as well as in the preparation of financial statements. So revenue recognition just gives a description about the different types of revenues that are received during the year and how they're recognized for the financial statements. Cash and cash equivalents gives a breakdown of the different types of cash and cash equivalents and what makes that up. So it includes cash on hand, demand deposits, and short-term investments, usually that mature within 3 months as of the end of the year. Asset retirement obligations. So again, this is more information about the legal obligation that the district has to incur retirement costs in relation to a tangible capital asset. So this has to do with the removal of asbestos and other hazardous material in several of the buildings that are owned by the district. Next, we have non-financial assets. In that is included tangible capital assets. So this note just gives a breakdown of the different types of capital assets that are held by the district as at the end of the year, as well as how those different assets are amortized over their useful lives. And then on page 14, there's additional information about asset retirement obligations, just because this is the first year of adoption, so it'll be in here quite a bit. This just talks about how, again, that it's a legal obligation, as well as how they're initially measured using the best estimate that management can determine, and we sort of do audit work to make sure that estimate is appropriate. Note 2, we have cash and cash equivalents. So it's just a breakdown of what makes up cash and cash equivalents. You can see it's broken up between just general cash and temporary investments. Temporary investments had an interest rate of 3.85%, as it is a GIC. Portfolio investments, you can see again, is made up of another GIC as well as some Sun Life financial shares at the end of 2023. Note 4, accounts payable and accrued liabilities. This is just a breakdown of the different types of accounts payable. You can see the majority of it is in holdbacks payable and wages and employee future benefits. Note 6, unearned grants. So this represents funds that have been received that have yet to be used or recognized as revenue. You can see there was about $1.8 million in the Northern Capital and Planning Grant that was used during 2023. However, there was a new grant received, the Growing Communities Fund, for $2.1 million that is to be used in the upcoming years. Further below, we have a breakdown of the different grants, their amounts received, and how it was spent during the year. So first we have the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant. Then we have the Community Works Fund. As mentioned before, there was none of this funding was used in 2023. The Northern Capital and Planning Grant. And then new this year is the Growing Communities Fund. You can see here that a portion of it was used for sewer system improvements. Page 19, contaminated site. So this has been in here for a while, has to do with the remediation of the former Quick Save service station. This is different than the asset retirement obligations, as it has to do with it's not a remediation for when it is to be retired. It has to do with environmental standards. Note 9, long-term debt. So this is a breakdown of the different loans that are outstanding at the end of the year. This includes their interest rates as well as a list of any of the total cost of any equipment that's used to secure the loans. Note 10, contingent liabilities, employee sick days. This just gives a brief description of what makes up the employee sick days and how that number is arrived at, and the fact that it is unlikely that the total accumulated sick days would become due and payable during a year. Note 11, accumulated surplus. So this is the breakdown of the different surpluses and reserves that are held at the end of the year. As you can see, it's broken up between attraction and retention, industrial, fire department, police costs, etc. And the total at the bottom here agrees to the total accumulated surplus on the face of the statements. Note 12, municipal pension plan. So this is going to be in every municipal set of municipal financial statements. They'll all have the same approximate note. This just gives information about the MPP and how much the district paid into it during 2023. Note 13, this is just a breakdown of the different types of taxation revenue that was received during the year and how much was transferred back out to the other governments. Note 14, so this is a note that shows how the balanced budget as per your financial plan ties back into the budgeted surplus as per the financial statements, since the PSAS financial statement reporting requirements are slightly different than how it is shown when you're doing your budget procedures. Note 15 is just a description of the different types of grants that were received during the year. Note 16, accounts receivable. So this is just a breakdown of the different types of accounts receivable held at the end of the year. You can see that the majority has to do with taxes receivable and just general trade and services receivable, as well as grants that are expected to be received. Note 18, segmented information. So this is the breakdown of the different segments that are used in preparing the financial statements. You can see here it's broken up between the ones you're probably used to seeing: the protective services, public works, recreation and culture, general government, environmental and public health, sewer, and water services. And so we use these in the schedule in a few pages just to sort of break down the expenses a little. It's a little easier to understand the expenses that were incurred during the year. Again, note 19, this is the asset retirement obligation. This is just talking about the fact that this has to do with asbestos obligation and the discount rates that were used for 2023. Note 20, change in accounting policy. This just has to be in here, again, because of the new asset retirement obligation requirements. So this will just be in here for the 1 year, then it'll be gone next year, but just talks about the fact that there was a change in accounting policies during the year. Schedule 1, schedule of general fund expenses. So this is just a breakdown of those segments mentioned before and how the different expenses sort of tie into that. So you can see broken up between salaries, advertising, insurance, office supplies, repairs and maintenance, and different types of expenses for the different segments that I went over quickly, a couple pages ago. I'll also just scroll through here. The total expenses at the end of the year agrees to the amount, that has to do with the general fund, not the total expenses for the year. However, Schedule 2 is the total expenses for the year for the general, the sewer, and the water, broken up between how you would typically see expenses during the year, amortization, bank charges, travel, wages, different services and supplies, etc. And then Schedule 3, Schedule of Tangible Capital Assets. This just gives a little bit more information and a breakdown of the different types of capital assets that were held at the end of the year, as well as any additions during the year, the amortization during the year, and then how the net book value sort of relates to that for 2023. And last page, we have Schedule 4, Schedule of Segmented Disclosures. So this just, again, is a little bit more information about the different revenues and expenses, broken up between the different segments during the year. I know that's not the most fun to listen to, but does anyone have any questions?
Questions, anyone? Doesn't look like we have any here, Taylor. That was a good presentation.
Oh, you're too kind. But yeah, no, that's all I have. I just want to say thanks again to Margaret and staff for all their help. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Will do. So we don't have to adopt that or anything, right? That's just we're receiving it. We should approve, or okay. So anyone want to do that?
Move to approve. Move to approve.
So, Mike,
Nope. We need it.
He's gone. Oh, we're
No,
recording.
12. Pension. He's got a lot of the figures wrong on what pension is and how I think we provide the data way earlier than 2021. He's got stats in there like for 240, and that's immaterial to this financial statement. That's why I didn't want to talk about it, but just so you're aware, talk to him about getting updated figures in the pension plan.
Plan every year.
So can we,
It's provided by them, and then they only update it every 3 years. So 2024 will have the new stats, which it says in the notes. So every 3 years, they give us new stats that are disclosed within our statements, but they give us the wording we are to put in our statement, so we have no control over it.
okay. They come from
Comes from
MPP
pension,
or BCI
from,
or BCPC?
I'd
I'm
have to
sorry,
look-
I
I'd
just
have
want
to
to know who to ask, because I think that we're dealing with 2 years later data that we're presenting at our AGM next month. So all of the stuff that it's immaterial. So I'm just
yeah, so
saying.
this year, the information you have will be in 2024's financial statements.
Yeah, you've got going to 2021 in one of the notes, that's all. Just didn't, anyway, it's immaterial. I just wanted for clarification. It's good. I will ask on my end too.
And I can look and I can see where that came from.
Yeah.
any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to 4.1. Does somebody want to move the recommendation? Anybody?
I can move it.
Okay. That's a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Second that.
Okay. Comments?
Sure. So I appreciate that we went out. I can't find a website on MGM project management. I couldn't go and do my homework to see. We've been screwed on sidewalks here and out of town people, whether it's.
You're on,
Sorry,
we're on 4.1.
sorry.
All good. Any questions on 4.1?
I don't have that in front of me. Sorry.
That's the financial plan and tax rate bylaw.
Oh, this one. Okay.
That's just my summary of what's in the financial plan bylaw and what our taxation rate is for 2024. And the
Any-
two bylaws are there for readings.
Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to 5, the sidewalk tender. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
It's hot in here.
Where?
Yeah, okay, we just need a mover and a seconder, then we can move on. Okay, questions? Brian, your mic's live, so you can go first.
Oh, thank you very much. Not that you guys have heard this before, but we have so much, I don't know where MGM or MGN is from. I don't know any history. I get that we're with this Western Canada thing and we've got to put it out for everybody, but are they local at all? Does anybody know? Like I've put in MGM project management, the only thing that comes up is the city of Prince George and they've deleted it. So having problems with that sidewalk in front of Stewart with an out-of-town group that doesn't know the north and seeing what we put into the health unit or into the manor because they designed a building that it wasn't from the north. I'm really leaning towards VanCon. It's still under budget and they're local and they'll get it. And so we can keep going to the lowest bid, but as you and I know in the forestry, you're not getting the best product. You get what you pay for. So we're still under budget. That's just my thought. If anyone could tell me where MGN is from and a project history, that would be great.
Do you have any information on that, Marcus?
Yeah, thank you. So I have information, but not with me now, because consultant L&M Engineering, they did the tendering and they received all of the proposals. And with their recommendation, this recommendation is to award to MGN, and all of the supporting documents are available.
Sure, I just wanted to know if we have the authority then to go outside of, I'm not saying, I don't know where everyone else feels, but anyway, is there the authority to pick one or the other from council?
Yeah, definitely. But you have to justify why you are not awarding to the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
So when there are two bidders and both are meeting the specification and you're supposed to award to the lowest. And this one is big difference between the lowest and the second lowest or the top. So over $200,000 difference between the lowest and the highest one. So you have to justify why you are going to the other one, which is very expensive. Thank you.
And if I could. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I just want to say I concur with Councillor Frankel in terms of, I just did a quick search too, just to see what was going on there. And the fact that you can't find anything on them, if there's a possibility that we could get some understanding in terms of the work they've done, to have an entity that it's like a ghost. We don't know who they are. We don't know where we're going to be going with that. Makes me nervous. Regardless of the process, I think we all understand we try to go for lowest bid, et cetera, but right now we're dealing with someone we don't even know who they are. And I think that's a valid point. If we can't come up with someone who could give good references to the district or municipality that's trying to understand who they are, that's an issue. So.
They're a numbered company doing business as.
Yeah. But we can't find out where they work, projects they've done, what's good. Like if there is that and we can be supplied with that, and maybe it's a little different and we could have some comfort level with that. But I think right now I don't have a comfort level because I don't even know if they exist at this point. So.
So question for me is, in Brian and my world, we have qualified bidder lists. And I'm just wondering, I know, like I look at L&M Engineering, I know through my past experience that L&M Engineering's on a qualified bidder list. I know working through BC Wildfire Service and other contracts that we had in the Ministry of Forests, VanCon's on that qualified bidder list. This MGM, I actually thought there was a production company for films and stuff. So I've never heard of these guys before. So that was the thing that I wasn't sure if if there's on a qualified bidder list that, or in going out to look for tenders, if L&M just does a shotgun approach and then gets what they get. And because we're, government using taxpayer dollars, we tend to always favor the lowest bid, and which sometimes the lowest bid doesn't get you what you want. And my worry is that the, $190,000 differential is a known contract that knows what it's going to cost to actually build that sidewalk appropriately in the weather conditions we have, and that may account for the additional dollars that it takes to do the job right.
Do you have well, let's go to Councillor Martins and we'll come back to Moklis just to.
Yeah, thanks. I was just gonna reiterate on that, kind of what everybody's saying too. That'd be my concern too, just to hire somebody that we know nothing about. That certainly, sends up a red flag. I wasn't here when it happened, but when like in front of the bakery there on Stewart Street, that would, I'm sure that was a fiasco when it happened here in this room too. And as long as it wasn't these guys, like, I don't know that.
I can't tell you that.
Oh, okay. Because that seemed to, drag on a long time and everybody was unhappy. I think going with the locals that we know, and if there was a problem with it, I think it would get corrected. Where that's been a problem with the other on Stewart Street one there. So I would be certainly in favor of, you get what you pay for lots of times, and we've made mistakes in the past, and I think the general public, I think, would be happier to have a good sidewalk than the $150,000 difference.
And there's nothing to say, just to throw my 2 bits in, that these guys wouldn't just sub to any other company that may have a good or bad reputation either, right? It's not necessary that they're doing it. Did you have anything to add, Moklis, or?
No, just, there are definitely options to, different options, like say retender or go with the other tender. But the thing is that it was actually tendered nationally and provincially based on the size of the contract. We got only two contractors showed interest. So we have to keep in mind that if we are retendering, the things will not change significantly. And we got only 2 proposals. So unlike in many projects, 4 or 5 proposals, you can get and you can compare. And here actually there is no other companies and only 2 contractors. Thank you.
Councillor Vanderhoof?
So what was it on our quote? Who was actually closer? Because we would have done an internal quote of what we thought a budget, what the contract would have gone for, was around 600 or something, right? 625, something like that.
Yeah, 670.
So it always makes me worry when you have someone that's so under budget. What are they missing? So it tells me, that we actually had our professional people do a budget up to what we thought the cost was going to be. And we have someone that comes in way, way under, man, oh man, I'm worried about that.
Okay, so reading the room, I think we should call the question on this. I imagine it's going to be defeated, and then we can talk about other options if that is the case. All in favor? Opposed? And it's defeated. Go ahead, Margaret. Oh, no, that's not you, that's you. Okay.
Do I
Assume
use
you were the
those?
last one because you were the last piece.
I just want to remind council that in the budget, this project is total cost of 473,210. So if we go with anything higher, we'll need to amend the budget, which we just did 3 readings on.
The proposed budget for Victoria Street sidewalk is $676,014, including contingency.
Is what it says up above.
Yeah, that is including contingency. Is that? Yeah, so the amount I think Margaret is referring is before contingency.
I would just like to double check that. I don't have my numbers in front of me.
We just defer to the,
Could we defer this to the next time we get, next time we meet?
and some project history on MGN.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable if they've done 4,000 feet of sidewalk somewhere.
Yeah.
In the north. And then I'm good.
So
That's all it
is-
needs to be.
should that be a resolution?
I'll make the resolution that we defer.
Okay,
You're
good.
reading the law. Tell me
Sorry,
what,
go
tell
ahead.
me what I'm supposed to say.
It says if you have 2 compliant bids, you have to go with the lowest, as far as I can find, without a really good reason.
Personally,
But I have.
personally, I think I've got a, I
that's as
think
far-
that's just me. I think I've, in my head, I've got a good reason. That doesn't anybody else.
That's
But I would defer until the next in-camera meeting and ask that staff get some project history on MGN during that time.
You have to make a decision. And to warrant tender.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry then.
But you
Next,
can-
next meeting.
Regular meeting? for
Oh, well,
information?
whatever you're telling me. I'm
Well, if
relying
you
on
want
you.
information about it. Oh, if you want information, you can get that in camera because it's third party, but you can't award the tender. So it's kind of backwards with our meetings. We have regular and then in camera.
I'm just, that one in front of Stewart was, those guys were putting in sidewalks when it was pouring rain and full of rain and we weren't on it and they kept going. And now we got a bitch of a sidewalk. I agree with you. It's too low. Well, and I apologize. It may not be because maybe the budget figure in our information's wrong compared to what the CFO's budget is or telling us.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe I.
Yeah. Yes.
Because my report, I have a total amount there, but I need to check just to make sure what's right. And it could be incorrect in
Okay.
either
Yeah,
or
just-
none,
I
so
just opened that on. So 563 is the budget number, construction, and 112 is contingency, total 676,014.
So on my report, it should say 676,014.
Mhm.
Okay,
I think it'd be easy, but we've had so much.
I think it just goes, it's two things. One, we're concerned about the number, and the other thing to me is we don't know this entity can actually do the work.
Mhm.
I think it goes back to when you're saying, a list that says these are, what was the term you used?
qualified bidders.
Yeah, qualified. I'm not willing to take a risk anymore on people who are bidding. We have no information on them. How can you authorize that? It could be just shell companies come in, bid on it, and then they go around, find cheap subs or something like that. And that's not how we want to operate. That's not the best practice for a municipality. So I don't see how we can't say, hey, look, unless we have a qualified bidder
Mhm.
who we know who they are, we don't have to like them. We just have to know that they can do the job. Right now, we haven't got a clue. So I think we should ask the questions.
So before we go further, let's just get a seconder, just so we're following. Anybody can do that? Okay, you moved, 2 seconds. Okay, now go ahead, Ernest.
Okay, I was just gonna ask about you're asking about, looking for history and don't they have to, like when they apply for bonding to get these, you must have bonding to get these contracts, I would think. I mean, I have to when I do contracts, so you have to provide bonding, and that would certainly give you all the background you should ever need. If the bonding company is, they gotta know who they are. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. If you ask them to, yeah, if they approve bonding or you need a copy of the bond or something. Might be a way to find out who they are.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. We'll just remind councillors that this is recorded and put on the internet. Expropriation 6.1.
So my apologies for this coming again, but the lawyer neglected to tell me that this was to be in an open meeting. So here it is again. It's for the expropriation of QuickSave.
It's exact same information.
We just put in the environmental and the building assessment into it, but otherwise the same.
Somebody want to move the recommendation? Seconder? Any discussion?
Punchy.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. And we're adjourned.